Now, today marks the 17th anniversary of the establishment of the African Peer Review Mechanism. Now, this is a mutually agreed instrument voluntarily acceded to by member states of the African Union as a self-monitoring mechanism. It's meant to encourage conformity with regards to issues like political, economic and corporate governance values, codes and standards among African countries, and the objectives in socio-economic development, as well as to ensure monitoring and evaluation of the AU Agenda 2063 and SDGs 2030. Big question though is, 17 years on, how has this mechanism worked? Let's get a view now from Yarik Turianskyi, who's the Deputy Head of the African Governance and Diplomacy Program at the South African Institute of International Affairs. Yarik, thanks so much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Peter.
17 years on, I mean, when it was launched, it sounded like a great idea. Countries reviewing each other and giving each other tips on how to improve, and overall it should have improved the continent. Let's start with how many countries have actually signed up for this?
As at this point in time, as of January, 40.
So 40 have signed out. How many have actually even been reviewed?
Just over 20. So it's about 23 countries have been reviewed.
All right, in 17 years, just 20. Does that give us an indication of the challenges the mechanism has had?
I think certainly, Peter, as you're saying, there was a lot of idealism around the APRM when it was launched. And much of it has certainly not lived up in practice. I think one of the challenges has been on a very technical level. The architects of the mechanism didn't envision how long it would actually take to carry out these reviews. So they thought that reviews would take place every 3 to 5 years and countries would be reviewed continuously. So you undergo the review, you implement on what's called the National Program of Action. So it's basically a two-step process. Yeah. The review process is to identify the governance challenges, and then implementing the National Program of Action is to eradicate them. Then you continuously do monitoring and evaluation and reporting, and then you do the second review and the third, so you continuously build on that. And that really hasn't happened in practice. So only about 2 or 3 countries have undergone their second review so far, and South Africa is actually undergoing its second review this year. But we are now in 2020, and the first review happened in 2007.
All right.
So 13 years on.
Okay, so what is holding the process back? Is it political will? Is it countries just not stepping forward?
I think it is very much political will at the highest level at the continent. So it's the peers. You know, you can look at many different types of peers in the review process, but the most important one is obviously the heads of state and government. And I think that initially the proponents of the APRM, Thabo Mbeki and Olusegun Obasanjo and also Abdoulaye Wade, they came in with a very good will, with the desire to create more openness, transparency and accountability on the continent. And perhaps some of the countries that have signed up to it, they signed up to it for other reasons. Maybe they wanted to signal to development partners or investors that they're willing to democratize and improve their government structures, but certainly there's been willingness on behalf of quite a few governments in Africa undergoing this process to very tightly control it, not to let civil society participate, and certainly not let any criticism of the government get out.
Yeah. All right. So a 17-year assessment, has it been of value at all?
I think it's been mixed. I did a paper probably about 3 or 4 years ago where I did some statistical analysis looking at 3 different types of states in Africa. So states that have signed up to the APRM but have not undergone the review, states that have signed up and undergone the review, and states that have not signed up at all, which roughly broke it into 3 equal groups. So I tried to be as scientific as possible about it, but the results were, I unfortunately have to say, not conclusive. So it seems that there was a very marginal improvement by states that have signed up and have undergone the review. But at the same time, one could argue that those were the states that had the political will to improve their government's processes anyway. and whether the APRM has contributed to it or was just a parallel process that went alongside other government improvement processes, that was very hard to say from the data.
All right, so how does the APRM fit in to the African Union that has various organs and various arms that kind of look after certain things like human rights and so on and so forth? Do we still need an APRM if all these other organs are working?
I think so, because the APRM is a rather technical body. It's currently a specialized organ of the African Union, but it does what no other bodies do. If you look at the reviews themselves, they're very thorough, very comprehensive. You're looking at about 300 to 500 pages of very thorough data, statistics, and word of mouth, storytelling about the situation of the government's governance in the country. So if you want to have a look at the situation of the governance in Uganda, APRM reports are the perfect place for it. But at the same time, I do say 300 to 500 pages, and Peter, you're a busy man. I'm not sure you have time to read every single one. So I think the APRM is also trying to modernize in a way by doing specialized reviews, by going more electronic, and it's really a challenge for it to make the reviews more pithy and have almost an executive summary in addition to the
but
to
without
the big book.
Consequences, A, for not signing up, and B, for not correcting behavior. What really is the point?
I completely agree with you. If you look at the base documents of the APRM from 2003, it vaguely refers to measures that may be taken should a government not comply with the recommendations. But as of this point in time, 17 years on, these measures have never been taken. Mauritania was very briefly suspended, but that's because there was a coup and they were suspended from all activities of the African Union as per the Constitutive Act. So the APRM can't claim credit for that.
All right, so that's even just the sort of first instance of the APRM. Then it was expanded its brief to increase looking at Agenda 2063 and the 17 developmental goals. Should they put that to one side and just focus on the core mandate? Get that right first.
I've had these debates with colleagues, and there are valid views on both sides, because on the one point, the APRM is perfectly positioned to deal with matters like these in Africa, Agenda 2063 and also the Sustainable Development Goals. But on the other hand, there is the argument of, is it stretching itself too thin? And also the fact that Agenda 2063 and the SDGs span the entire continent, and the APRM only has 40 members at this point in time. So there's a move towards universal accession by 2023, 20 years after inception. But at the same time, there are members that have joined in 2003, 2004, and haven't even been reviewed yet.
All right. You know what, Yarik, I think this is a conversation we need to keep having and perhaps putting out there so that citizens may start to agitate a little bit to make sure that these things get signed up for, get reviewed, and some kind of action flows from it. But thanks very much indeed for your insights.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to take a quick